The technocrats wanted to use the technologists, the scientists, the experts running machines to dictate what our world would be like. And I believe that this philosophy is still very much guiding our world today. We're going to take a moment to talk about the positive side of technology, because I know I've said a lot here about sort of the scary, the darker side of things, but technology is also a tool. I believe technology is a tool for liberty and empowerment. I mean, if I was endorsing anybody, it would be the Above Phone. This is my buddy Ramiro. The company's called Above Phone, abovephone.com. So he sells de-Googled phones that have been loaded with, like, they're stripped of all the spyware, but he loads them with their own custom packages of every alternative. So instead of Google Maps, you got organic maps. Instead of Google search engine, you got Sirius or pre-search. Right? So your phone comes loaded with all the things you're used to doing, but the open source, privacy-based, decentralized versions of all of them. And of course, there's also privacy coins for those who like this aspect of the digital realm. I mentioned XMR, which is Monero. Monero is one of, if not the most privacy-based cryptocurrency out there. It allows people to transact value in a way that makes it difficult for governments and others to know what you're doing. I very much believe tools like these, when used regularly, when you kind of make this a part of your, just like you're so used to saying, oh, let me ask Siri, where do I gotta go for dinner tonight? My point is, if we care about privacy, there are options, right? We don't have to just give up and say, throw our hands up and say we're screwed. Now, it might take research. It might take learning some new apps. I don't think that we're going to be able to fix this whole situation I've been describing with just a brand new president and we're all going to go vote and everything's going to get fixed. These problems are way too entrenched, even for one man. Who knows? You know, people's families have been assassinated. This machine's a bit bigger than I think one person can fix. So I choose to put my energy into building new systems. And this gentleman here, his name is Samuel Edward Konkin III. He actually died 20 years ago, 2004. He was a Canadian man. He was living in the US for most of his life. He was a student, active in the student movements of the 60s and 70s. And he was also a philosopher, and he started to study, well, for one, he was studying the Soviet Union and the collapse of the Soviet Union. He was studying Peru in the 70s, where there was a lot of terrorism. And what he noticed is you start to see in different empires, including in the US, even though the state is growing, there's always this underground, informal, or what he called counter economy of people who try to get away from government regulation and government control. And so they go underground. They had their own, their own alternative currency, and they just started to exist completely outside of that state on a local level. His vision was, well, what if we, as free, beautiful, powerful people, consciously said, you know what, let's take our money and our energy and our support away from that mainstream state system and start building new systems. You know, there's the famous Buckminster Fuller quote, you know, about not fighting with, building new systems, not fighting. There's so many people have said similar things, like you don't fight system with the same energy, you got to build something new, yada, yada. That's very much what I believe in. I think that the answer is to build parallel counter systems outside of these things. But I also want to have the right to exist away from that and outside of that and to maintain my privacy and liberty. And so then for me, the answer is we build alternative systems, new systems, and that's what Samuel Konkin's work was about. He was studying ancient Greece, and he was looking at the agora, the marketplace, which is where the people would come together. They'd discuss politics, they'd be exchanging food, exchanging goods. And he envisioned a future like that's what we can get to, where humanity can come together, free debate of ideas and services and all that stuff. And so that was kind of like his ideal. How can we get there? And he believed it was through the counter economy, this parallel economy. The rest of the world and the people who want the digital future, like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and others, the United Nations, you're going to hear this term more and more. Digital ID is a human right. They're trying to convince people, so I live between Mexico and Texas. They're trying to convince people in the global south and Mexico and elsewhere that they need digital identification in order to join the modern world. I'm kind of promoting the opposite, is encouraging people to stay out of those systems as much as possible, to see that there's actually strength and I think empowerment outside of their system. And I also took his ideas, and I've been involved with this concept called freedom cells. You can check it out at freedomcells.org. That's CELLS, like the cells in your body. Every single cell is powerful, individual, and unique, but together they're part of a larger ecosystem, which is you. And we believe by creating local cells, groups, circles, hubs, hives, whatever you want to call them, but local support groups everywhere that are talking about these ideas, that are thinking about how do we maintain our humanity, how are we going to interact with technology, how can we use technology in the positive ways like I was just showing you, and have a support group of people who are thinking about these ideas. As more of us are doing that, and we've been quite successful. And even if those of us here aren't the people working on or building the new AI digital technology, we are consumers too, and we have choices to make about what tools we use and what tools we don't use. And that's the main reason that I wrote this book. That's the main reason I've been promoting everywhere.